The business is going around in circles because they are incredibly good at one thing or two things in their business, but there's a bunch of other stuff that's not really being addressed.
Oh, this is hard. What a waste of time. I sat down to do back costing. I'd made 2 hours for it, and
There's no calendar time for leadership in our business and building culture. It's all just getting done.
nothing comes from nothing.
Lumpy workflow is a classic example. Busy for a period and then quiet.
Business has 6 key functions. If you neglect any one of these, your business is going to struggle to perform and struggle to grow consistently.
Often in business, people have big problems that seem overwhelming and insurmountable, but there's a small trick that we use to help them get on the front foot. Now, if you show me your calendar, I can show you the problems in your business and what you need to do to fix them. Well, welcome to the Profitable Tradie podcast. Tony Fraser-Jones, your host, hanging out with Phil Smith, my co-host. Doing well today?
Always, mate. Always good. Taking along. Yeah, and yourself?
I'm excellent, man. I'm looking forward to today's pod. It's a very simple concept, but it's very powerful. What are we digging into?
Mate, we're talking about how nothing comes from nothing. Basically, results don't just happen with no work, right?
That'd be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice, but unfortunately it's not true, is it? So basically, if you want to be good at something, it does take time and it does take effort, and there's just no way around that. Now, business has 6 key functions, and basically if you neglect any one of these, your business is going to struggle to perform and struggle to grow consistently.
And the thing here is, everyone who's listening to this is a person who works hard and cares about their business and wants to get better. That's why you're listening. So hats off to you, because if you weren't that person, you wouldn't even bother. The trouble is when something isn't working, it is fundamentally because you or your business is not working it. That's the big issue. And it typically means that you're not putting enough time or effort or headspace into the area that's the problem. And so often what we do as coaches, we can tell what's going on in a business by viewing people's calendars, by seeing where they actually spend their time. That tells us a lot about the business, and it will show us the problems. And typically if you come with a problem, whether it's a lack of work problem or a cash flow problem or my team are all hopeless problem or I can't hire good people problem, we can see in your calendar that actually there's not much time spent on that particular area. That's generally the issue. And so, your calendar is very powerful. And when you show me your calendar, I can actually tell what the problems in the business are. And that gives us a clue to actually solving them.
Yeah, it's certainly very telling. And I'm sure you got a story to...
I do. Exercise. Let's say there's a chap, maybe he's called Philip.
Great name.
Great name. And he's very diligent at exercising. He goes to the gym. He's been going for 6 months, 5 days a week. He has a couple of days off. He's got all the nutrition happening. He works really hard. He spends a lot of time there, and he's very, very diligent. And there's one problem, though, with Philip. Well, there's a few problems with Philip, but we won't go into all of them.
The problem we'll deal with today.
Yeah, the problem with Philip is that the only thing he exercises when he goes to the gym is his right leg.
Yeah.
Now, his right leg is incredible. It's powerful. It's a thing of beauty.
One of the legs is anyway.
Yeah, the right one.
Oh, damn it.
But the trouble for Philip is as soon as he gets out of the gym, all he does is walk around in circles.
Well, I got extra power.
Extra power in one leg. And unfortunately, for a lot of business owners, the business is going around in circles because they are incredibly good at one thing or two things in their business, but there's a bunch of other stuff that's not really being addressed. And that causes the business to effectively go in circles, which is not cool.
No, and if this is you, I'm sure you can probably even think down to like what's the metaphorical limb that you've been really working.
Powerful. And for most people, they're good at doing the work.
Yeah,
they're
that's
good
right.
at actually
they're good at delivery on the job.
Delivery on the job.
Yeah, that's right. And I think obviously if we only work that metaphorical one leg, or basically we not spending enough time across the different business functions, we're going to run into some big
our calendar's
issues.
not balanced. Well, there's a bunch of stuff that comes up, like lumpy workflow is a classic example. Busy for a period and then quiet, and then busy, then quiet. Yeah. There's a calendar problem there.
Yeah, you're not spending time generating work.
Yeah. Quality problems again. Like, if you have issues popping up all the time, there's probably not enough time spent on quality assurance.
Yeah, 100%.
Poor profitability. You've probably got a bunch of low profit jobs. To be honest, poor profitability comes when you're not looking at the financial results of your business. You're not tracking jobs, you're not doing a P&L, you're not back costing, and you don't really know what's going on. So you're typically in those situations, you're great at getting a bunch of low profit jobs done.
Yeah.
which is not awesome.
And they're not fixing the problem because you're not actually looking at it.
Well, you don't even know what it is really. Yeah. Well, you know there's a problem, but you don't understand the cause. Team problems are a classic example of a lack of calendar space. So it might be performance problems, it might be retention problems, it might even be hiring problems. That's typically because maybe the business owner, you as a business owner, are just not experienced at hiring people. You haven't spent any time, skilling yourself up.
Or you haven't done interview practice. You haven't role-played those interview situations with somebody so that you're, well-versed when they come up. You've never done a reference check before, so when you did it, it fell flat. You've never done an on-job test, so you didn't know what to do. Like, you got to put practice in, right?
That's right. And leadership. And so this is a big one. As a business owner, we're so busy doing work. Often we're still out in the field ourselves or on the tools, or even when we get off it, we're operations, we're organising all this stuff, and we're not. There's no calendar time for leadership in our business and building culture. It's all just getting done, which is important, obviously, but there's a bit more to it than that.
Yeah, 100%. And on the other hand, like if we do get control of our calendar and spend time where it's needed, big upside.
Well, you'll create a balanced business. That's the key thing. And a balanced business is required to grow. You need more leads if you want to grow your business. So it means you need to do marketing. And if you've got more leads, you've got to figure out a way of converting them into sales. That takes some time. And as you've got more team members, you need to work on your leadership skills so the whole thing hangs together, and you've got a decent culture and people like working there and they do a good job.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, it's about real growth takes balancing the calendar across the business. And this is not easy to do, but it is absolutely critical.
Yeah. Yeah, it's massive. And so let's get into how we actually bring this all together, because that's the really...
Yeah, the fundamental thing here is a really simple concept, but it's the implementation again that's the key. The issue is if you have a problem in your business, it's because your business or you are not spending enough time on that problem area. But that's pretty much what it is. And so an example might be, let's take up and down workflow. This is a classic problem that we see. Busy for a few months, and then all of a sudden it's not so busy, and you start stressing out because, well, how do I keep the team busy? And so what happens in that situation is you get frantic with doing some pricing and ringing around, and you organise some work, and then all of a sudden you're busy again, and then you're off to the races doing the work again. Now, if you look at the calendar consistently, when you're in that busy time of delivery, there's no sales or marketing activity going on because you're so busy
getting the job done.
You're busy getting the job done. And so there's a lack of time spent on actually delivering forward work. That's a calendar problem. That's a resourcing problem. That's a time management problem.
Yeah.
Culture and leadership. Another example, if you've got team members who are misbehaving, not doing a good job, don't feel valued, etc. Typically, if you look in your calendar, there's no time for performance reviews. There's no coaching sessions. There's very little training going on. There's no time giving the employees some love to make them feel heard and understand and figure out where they're at or if they've got any issues. That's a calendar problem. And so that's what we really need to solve, the calendar problem.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the thing is it does take time and effort to generate these results. Like you really do have to put in that time and effort or otherwise you're not going to get anywhere. And the hard part is that when you first start doing that time and effort, you might really suck at it. If it's the first time you've ever worked on marketing, you might not be very good. If it's the first time you've ever done any work on your team culture or done, the thing called the 20, which we work on, or, performance reviews or one-on-one training, if you've never done it before, you might not be that good at it. And if you don't have your head around your financials, you're going to sit down at your table to back cost jobs, but you don't know where to start, let alone how to trend it or to read anything out of it that's useful. The thing is that you will get better the more that you keep going. And the real risk is that when you sit down and make time for something for the first time and you're not that good at it, that, the risk is that you throw it to the wind because you're like, oh, this is hard. What a waste of time. I sat down to do back costing. I'd made 2 hours for it and, it took 10 minutes because I had no idea what I was doing. So I played on my phone for 10 minutes and then I, left. So what a waste of time. I'm not doing that again. But the key is you do have to put in that time consistently, keep making time for it. Make time to get better at it because the more you do it, the more reps you put in, so to speak, the more you build that muscle, so to speak, and basically get better, and the time is better and better spent and more of a payoff.
Exactly. So calendar is massive.
Yeah.
And, like we said, if you can't see the time scheduled for those things in your calendar, how can you expect them to work?
Yeah, you can't. And really, I mean, like as far as where do we spend that time? Well, there's 6 key functions in your business. So you alluded to some of these earlier, but basically you've got marketing, so you need to generate leads. You've got pricing, so you need to be able to price those leads profitably. You've got sales, so you need to be able to close the leads that you've priced, so you actually get jobs in the books. You need team, which really comes down to hiring. So it's getting some people into your business that can do the work, and then culture. So keeping those people you've hired happy and productive. You've got systems, which is basically making sure things can run without you, and you can actually scale this thing. And then the 6th one is leadership. So someone needs to be at the helm, and they need to be capable, and hopefully that's you, and you can do it.
Yeah, and you need to have all of these things there to build a great business. A business that can work without you, that's profitable, does require those different functions to be taken care of. And I know if you're listening, you're probably like, flipping heck, like that's a big deal. My calendar is only like 40 hours a week on a good week, and there's not a lot of time in there. And I get that, and there are some things we can do to help stay across this. But the point is, if you don't work on all elements of the business, your business will develop a massive right leg, and your business will walk in circles, and it will be up and down. And you'll never escape from working in the business, from the daily grind of just having to deal with the shit that happens.
Yeah,
that's the key thing. And unfortunately, most business owners are caught in this trap. And they're caught in the trap because they're like, well, flipping heck, I can't afford to, I've got to do this stuff, and I can't afford not to let this person down, and I can't afford to spend any money getting extra help. And that condemns them to poverty.
Yeah, it's the old, well, if I don't do this stuff, then what? Everything's going to fall apart. And I suppose that's the whole point, is that you do need to do the proactive stuff too. So if we had to step this out as far as what to do, like what goes in the plan? How do we step this out?
Yeah, there's 2 parts to actually creating a balanced business that works on all those key functions, and getting there's 2 calendars we want to think about. The 2 parts are your calendar, and then if you think about the calendar of all the people in your business. And so the first thing is, if you have a smaller business, or even if you have a bigger business, in fact, often if you have a bigger business, this is more important, you've got to actually create a default calendar for yourself. And so that is default calendar. We've talked about this, but this is really where you book activities in your calendar for yourself, and they're locked in there each week. And so, you might lock in your pricing time into your calendar. That's an appointment that you have with yourself, that you need to do this pricing to keep the pipeline full. And so when other jobs pop up or urgent demands, you're like, no, actually I have to do this pricing. Like, that other stuff is going to have to wait, because if I don't do this, I'm going to build a business with a massive right leg. I'm going to walk in a circle.
Yeah.
Same with marketing. Same with the team. Hey, if I don't spend some time doing a performance review or a coaching session with my team members, and that's locked in my calendar, they're going to get annoyed and fed up and leave, and I'm going to be right, deep in the fire. So a default calendar for yourself is about how you get yourself under control.
Yeah, totally. And then the next thing is, actually pushing that same concept out to your team. So, you alluded to it earlier, but once you've got your time templated, templating the time of your team is also important, because you can't do everything yourself. And if you have a team that you can leverage, then there's more of these functions that can be executed, right? And by them sticking to a plan for their time, a default calendar, then what you're able to do is make sure that more can get done. Because like you said earlier, 6 functions is a lot, 40 hours is not long, but when you got multiple people, you got multiple sets of 40 hours. So you got to make that time template for them as well. And then have really good KPIs and KPAs, which is something that we've covered in a previous episode, but essentially measures of whether or not they're sticking to those, to those templates of their time. Because if they're not sticking to it, you're going to run into problems. Essentially,
same problem.
Yeah, essentially you've sent your left leg off to go and do weights on its own, but it's stuffed around and played on Facebook for the whole time. And now it's come back, and sure enough, it's still small. The right leg still takes over, and you're still walking in circles. So you need to be able to set people off to do their work so that you can leverage the time, but you need to make sure it actually gets done, which is those performance measures in place.
Yeah. So first is default calendar for yourself. Get your own time planning under control. Second is team. Get them under control, and some controls around them actually executing the things. And the third thing is, often you need more team.
Yeah.
You need more fixed costs. You need more resources in your business to actually grow it and do what's required. And again, I understand if you're listening, there's a lot of fear with this. It's like, what if I spend the money and it doesn't happen? I can tell you for sure, if you don't spend the money, it won't happen. It can't happen because you don't have the time and the resources to actually do what's required.
Well, the obvious one's constant vicious circle, right? Like, hey, I would hire more tradesmen, but I don't quite have enough work for any more tradesmen. I'm like, yeah, but if you had more tradesmen and that freed up you to get off the tools, then you would have time to generate work for more tradesmen, right? It's usually the reason why you can't afford to have the extra resourcing is because you don't have the extra resourcing. You know, if you had it, that would have freed up the time, ability, capability, capacity to do the actions required to make it work. So, you know, it's often a chicken and egg thing.
There's a great saying, to have it, you have to have it.
Yeah, right.
You know, to have those results, you have to have the resources to make them happen. And we talk about fixed costs and staffing costs. People are frightened of that. But I actually love spending more on fixed costs in a business and resourcing costs, because that means you're effectively making your factory bigger. Yeah. And so you've got a factory that can do all the things that need to be done. Effectively, the overall calendar is getting bigger. And so you do have to spend in advance to actually create that.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, it happens all the way up the ladder of growth, right?
Every layer of growth.
Yeah, I mean, to start with, you need more tradesmen so that you can generate work for more tradesmen. Eventually you need an office person so that you can actually spend time on stuff that's going to help you grow to the point where you can afford an office person, all the way up to, estimator, right? People say, well, I don't have enough work to price. We don't have enough revenue to balance that overhead. And I'm like, yeah, but if you had someone who only was pricing, an estimator, and bringing in new work, well, they could target new opportunities, create more work to price. They would be pricing and winning more of this work because they spend more time and effort on it, which means that you can afford it. Like, you need to have it, I think, is the perfect way to say it.
Yeah, and so that's about creating capacity. And there's a couple of things there. Obviously, there's no shortcuts. You have to do the work, or you or your team have to do the work, preferably your team. That's the point of business, leverage, more people doing the work. But it's also important as you create the capacity to make sure they're educated and stuff, because you don't want people going to the gym just thrashing themselves with a poor plan and poor form, because they're going to injure themselves. And so some education can make this process quicker for sure. I guess that's what we're doing here with the pod, is some education around the fact that if you have a problem, it's because you're not spending enough time on it.
Yeah, that's right. And that's going to apply to everything you do. Don't sit down to do marketing with no idea how to do marketing. You'll do crap marketing, it won't work, and you'll be like, see, this didn't work.
But you still got to sit down to figure that out, even to do the learning.
But sometimes you got to make the time to learn first and then the time to execute, and that's what we mean. Keep making the time. So should we land this plane?
Yeah, real simple. If you have problems in your business, then have a look at your calendar. You'll find that you're not spending the time that you need in all the areas of the business to create a balanced business that can grow and scale. It's exactly like someone who goes to the gym for 6 months, just works their right leg. They're going to walk around in circles. If you do the same, your business will as well. Thanks heaps for listening. We'll catch you all again next time.
See you later.